I may put you to sleep for a living, and I'm gonna continue doing that because they're probably not gonna ask me back for next season. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Raphael and I am here to review season 13, episode 12 of The Real Housewives, continuing talking about Sutton's esophagus of Beverly Hills. We start the episode off with Sutton working out next to her fireplace. Erica Jane, she's practicing her choreography for her $3 tour in Las Vegas. And she was actually pretty impressive. She was keeping up with the dance moves. She was like, it was actually pretty good, so good job, Erica. We see Garcelle, she's doing some type of laser facelift or something like that. Then we circle back to Sutton's house. She's outside, she's picking out some flowers, she's doing her gardening, right? And you know who she reminded me of in this scene? Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. Same person. So as she's doing that, Kyle pulls up. The way I would have grabbed my stuff, grabbed my flowers, ran in the house, locked the doors, and turned the lights off and pretended to not be home. But Kyle, she gets out the car, already talking trash. Oh, look at Sutton. You're pretending to be a gardener. If I was Sutton, I would have told her, oh, and look at you, still pretending to be a good sister. So Kyle is like, well, you can stay out here and pick out the flowers. I'm going in the house. And I'm like, last time I checked, I pay the bills, but okay, Kyle, if that's what you're into, then okay, daddy. Kyle continues thinking that she runs the house, and she's going through the kitchen, she's going through the fridge, and then in the confessional, she's like, oh, I see why Sutton doesn't eat now. There's no food in the fridge. And I'm like, well, damn, Kyle, like, you literally just got here. Like, do you want to go upstairs and try on my underwear too while you're at it? Like, sit down and eat some bread. But they start talking about the event from last week that Kyle had for her best friend, and Sutton, she gets down to the questions, and she's like, so, where was Mauricio? And Kyle is like, well, he was with his other bitches. I mean, on a business trip somewhere in Mexico City or something like that. Sutton in the confessional was like, that's suspicious, you know, given that this is not just some ordinary event. This is an event specifically for Kyle's best friend who passed away underneath the circumstances. You would think that he would want to show up to support his wife, but clearly we know what's going on between them, right? So they start talking about how Garcelle approached Sutton last week to warn her that Annemarie is coming for her and her esophagus. And Kyle's like, yeah, I'm just so shocked. Like, what's going on between you? Why are you shocked? You're the one that kind of started this whole thing in the first place by putting the battery in Annemarie's back at Sutton's event a couple of episodes ago. That's what started this whole thing. So why are you acting surprised about it? Like, you know, and then we see in a flashback that she actually, you know, when they were doing all those truth or dares last week, that they actually cut out a scene of Annemarie actually licking Sutton's underarm. Damn, Annemarie, the fact that you weren't even good enough to be shown in a full scene, you know, licking her underarm, like you did all of that for what? So Sutton tells Kyle that she found a house for them to stay at in Barcelona, Spain. That's their cast trip this season. And I always wanted to go to Spain. So she tells Kyle, I don't want Annemarie to come anymore. Kyle is like, well, it's too late. You invited her. The producers already bought her ticket. So she's like, well, okay, fine. She could come, but I demand an apology from her to my esophagus. And will she get that apology? We'll find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. So then we head over to Crystal's house. Oh, where did that come from? But Crystal, she goes outside to talk on the phone with Garcelle about Kyle's event from the night before. They want to know what is Annemarie's endgame with this whole esophagus conversation that she's so obsessed about. And honestly, I want to know too because, okay, let's just say that whatever Annemarie is accusing Sutton's esophagus of being, let's just say it's correct, right? Then what? Like, you're not going to get a trophy out of this. So it's just like, what exactly are you trying to get at by dragging this conversation out? That means nothing in the long run. Like, so then Crystal also tells Garcelle that she met Annemarie 4 months ago. But Annemarie introduced herself as a doctor. Come to find out 4 months later that she's not a doctor. She's actually an anesthesiologist. Anastasia. She's an Anastasia, right? And you know, isn't that how it typically goes? You know, people are so vague about their job. They'll say, oh yeah, I work at the hospital. Meanwhile, they're the receptionist. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes you gotta be a little bit more specific. But I don't blame Annemarie too much because, you know, with my Uber drivers, ooh, you know, they've known me for as being a model, a firefighter, an astronaut, a fisherman. I've been everything to these Uber drivers because you just assume that you'll never meet them again. So, you know, sometimes you just got to sprinkle a couple of lies, you know, to keep the conversation going, right? Annemarie probably thought the same thing. Like, okay, I'm never going to see Crystal again or be on the show. So let me just introduce myself as a doctor to sound interesting. And then come to find out 4 months later, fuck, I'm on the show. Ooh, I'm not a doctor. So I get it, Annemarie, I get it. Then we see Dorit and that other guy PK heading to the Beverly Hilton because she's throwing this big event for the Homeless Not Toothless Foundation, which is crazy to me that they still stuck with that name. It was funny for like 2 seconds, but realistically, it's not funny at all. Rich people jokes, right? So Dorit is freaking out. She wants everything to be in order. She doesn't know if everything looks good. PK is trying to calm her down by telling her, Dorit, baby, everything is gonna be okay. You need to not stress it out. Everything looks good, my darling. You're gonna be fine. The event is gonna go smoothly and everything is gonna be okay, okay? You need to stop stressing out. And then in the confessional, Dorit, she's lusting over him and she's like, oh my gosh, ever since our therapy session, me and Bubba have been like this. We talk to each other. He's so understanding of my feelings. He wants to hear me out. I love PK. I love him. And I'm like, well, damn, Dorit, all of this from just one session? He must have just got paid and he probably bought her a pair of shoes. That's probably why she's so happy, because there's just no way that she sees him as this knight in shining armor from just one therapy session. Like, okay, Dorit. We then circle back to Crystal. Oh, what is going on today? But Crystal, she goes to this restaurant to meet up with her brother Jeff to discuss what? His relationship instead of anything that Crystal has going on. So he's like, so, I met up with my fiance recently and everything is good. There's no bad blood between us. But she always felt like she was never accepted by you or mom. Crystal in the confessional, she's like, well, to all of his girlfriends, they always felt like I came off as intimidating. But, then there's the other side of me, and this is just my conspiracy theory. What if, how Kyle feels about Kathy and Kathy has this whole mysterious side to her that we don't see on camera? What if Crystal has that side to her, but we don't see it on camera? It's just my conspiracy theory. Like, what if she has this whole different side to her that we don't see on camera? We do see it. We see a glimpse of it when she gets activated. We see it later on in this episode. But when she takes it there, she takes it there. And what if that's really who she really is 24/7, but she tones it down for the show? I don't know. Again, that's just my conspiracy theory. I could just be making that up. I am making that up. But you never know. But, he's also like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Asia. I decided to move out there. And he's talking to her as if he's scared of her. So it's just like, I don't know. Are you not allowed to like make your own decisions? Like, I get it. It's your sister or your mom. But, I wish my mom and sister would try to control me. They tried, but I'm not going to listen. But I don't know. At the end of the day, he has to do his own thing. And Crystal, you have to just let him spread his wings. And that's that. It's finally time for the Homeless Not Toothless event. We see Dorit getting ready. She looks nice in her dress. And she's taking a bunch of pictures on the balcony. I do the same thing, honestly. And recently, I went out and I just know I look so good. And guess what? I got no good pictures of my outfit, nothing, and it's one of the worst feelings in the world, right? So then we see Kyle and Mauricio. Already, Kyle with the cold shoulder, the attitude. They're in the car, they're on their way to the event. They're having an awkward conversation, and Mauricio asks, so how was that event the other night? And I'm like, that event? Like, this is not just a random baseball game, Mauricio. Like, this is basically a whole memorial for her best friend, and you just want to call it some random event? Like, Kyla's like, oh, well, it was fine. Everything was good, everything was fine. And then in the confessional, she's like, I feel like in the past, it would have hurt my feelings if Mauricio wasn't there. Now, not so much. And like I said last week, it's so annoying how she keeps leaving like these breadcrumbs for us to paint this narrative of her and Mauricio. But then when she's questioned about it, it's, oh, what are you talking about? No, me and Mauricio are okay. Like, what are you talking about? Me and him are fine. Yet you want to give him the cold shoulder and give him an attitude this whole entire car ride. Like, I just feel like there's something more there with this whole story. Like, what exactly is she so upset with Mauricio? Like, did he do something and she finally caught on? Like, and then on top of that, Erica Jane, she was on Watch What Happens Live last night with Andy, and she told Andy, at the reunion, I want you to, I believe the word she used was eviscerate Kyle, about her marriage. Like the same way that you questioned me about the whole situation with Tom, I want you to do the same thing with Kyle. And I'm like, so Erica Jane, like you have something against Kyle too? I mean, she makes a good point though, because I mean, if Erica sat there first chair and she took it from Andy and everybody else, then so could Kyle. But I feel like Andy, Andy's gonna pull an Andy and he's gonna ask her one question. So how's everything with you and Mauricio? Kyle is gonna break down and she's like, things are not okay right now between me. I don't want to talk about it. And he's going to be like, okay, so let's move on. That's exactly how it's going to play out, unfortunately, right? So as they continue their small talk, Kyle drops the bomb on him and she's like, Oh, by the way, so like next week, I'm going to Barcelona, Spain with the girls. Just letting you know, Mauricio, he's caught off guard and he's like, wait, what? What do you mean Barcelona? Since when? And then in the confessional, Kyle is like, well, I mean, he always goes on these random trips without telling me. He tells me last minute. So this is a taste of his own medicine. And I'm like, Mauricio, what did you do to her? Like, But deep down inside, I'm Team Kyle because Mauricio, I don't know. But then we finally get to the whole, toothless, not homeless, whatever event. And I'm not even gonna lie to any of you, I was wet. I was completely wet because I love seeing this type of luxury. I love seeing these galas, everybody in these tacky dresses, like everybody looks good, the jewelry, like the money. It's just something about, it's just something about money that makes me, ugh. But I love it. I felt like I was actually watching a whole different show. I'm like, oh, like this is the luxury I want to see, right? So the kudos to you. She shows up with PK. Again, she looks beautiful. We see Garcelle. Garcelle looks beautiful in her dress. Then we see Erica Jane. Erica Jane, oof, she looks so good. She looks like money. She looks like money that she doesn't have in her bank account because she used up on her lawsuits last year, but she looks really good. I love the pink dress, the updo. She just looks so expensive. It's expensive to be her. She's looking around for everybody and she's like, where is everyone? All of a sudden, she coincidentally runs into this guy. His name is Justin. He's like, oh, you look beautiful. And she's like, thank you so much. He's like, oh, I just want to say that, my name is Dr. Justin. She's like, oh, wait a minute. Aren't you my dentist? And I'm like, oh, no, not the dentist. But Erica, you better be smart about it. I mean, you might get a discount. He's like, oh, yeah, you are my patient. You are. Let me see that beautiful smile. And I'm like, ooh, he would have had my pennies. I am so sorry. I would have proposed to that man right then and there, like, ooh, stop it. How's my teeth, daddy? But Erica, she's like, thank you so much, thank you. And he's just, flirting with her or whatever. I thought it was cute, but again, he's your patient, she's your patient. So, but then again, Erica, if I was you, I will flirt with him to try to get a discount. I'll be like, oh, you like my smile? Well, I was thinking, maybe I need a root canal. Maybe if you give me a discount, I could come by the office and, get a free cleaning or whatever. Like be smarter. Think about your last relationship with Tom. Don't try to mess it up with the future man. But, we see Annemarie and Marcellus, her husband. She looks pretty as well. Sutton, she looks like a jellyfish, but they're all mingling and they're all having a good time. And I just love seeing like the grand ballroom with all these tables, all these people. I love that. Kyle and Mauricio show up and they're taking pictures on the red carpet, pretending to be all happy and lovely. In the confessional, Kyle says, it's so interesting because I know people are observing me and Mauricio very closely. Our hand movements, how we touch each other, how we speak, they're observing everything and it's strange. And I'm like, well, you're on a reality TV show. What do you expect? If you don't like it, then on top of that, you don't make it any better either, that you keep drawing this narrative of you and Mauricio having issues and you're not really feeling him anymore. So of course, people are gonna observe and they're gonna ask questions. So again, Kyle, what do you expect? So then we see Marcellus and Annemarie. They're heading over to where Sutton, Crystal, and Garcelle are at, right? And I'm like, Annemarie, head the other way, they're about to jump you. Sutton and Erica, they're talking about the esophagus thing and how she wants to confront Annemarie in a second. And she's like, yeah, nobody talks about my ME, my magical esophagus. And then she goes on to say, oh yeah, I also have a MP, which stands for magical pussy. And I'm like, you, Sutton? I mean, you just told us that you haven't gotten a second date, so... On top of that, we saw your writing skills in Las Vegas on that episode a couple episodes ago when you were on the bull, and there was nothing magical about that, but okay, could you imagine Sutton, she's in the car, she's blasting Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion's WAP, like, now you're fucking with this wet ass pussy, like, oh, Sutton. But they're there, they're talking or whatever, and then Annemarie, she makes her way over, she introduces Marcellus to the group, eventually Sutton, she's like, Annemarie, we're gonna talk, we're gonna talk right now, and I'm like, if I was Annemarie, I'll be like, no, we're gonna talk in 5 minutes, I'm going to the bathroom, toodles. Like, you don't tell me, you don't run me. So Marcellus, eventually they kick him out the group. They're like, we need to talk. And Sutton, this whole thing goes from 0 to 100 in seconds. I didn't even see this coming. I'm like, oh, Bravo's actually showing us the entire scene. Typically, this would be like the last 10 seconds of the episode, so I was surprised. Sutton is just like, why do you keep talking about my esophagus? You need to stop. You need to stop. That is disrespectful. You keep talking about my body parts. For what? What reason? And I'm like, well, she must have had a couple of champagne glasses, because it literally went from 0 to 100. Annemarie was trying to explain herself, but she's talking in circles. Sutton, she's like, no ma'am, no ma'am, no ma'am, no ma'am. She's not letting Annemarie talk. And if I was Annemarie, even if I am in the wrong and I'm obsessed with her esophagus, you're not talking to me crazy either. Because Erica Jane, even in the confessional, she was like, where I'm from, those no ma'ams, those could get you slapped. And I mean, I agree with her because you're not gonna continue interrupting me like that or talking to me like this, even though you have a point, right? So they start going at it. She's like, well, I'm a this, and you were lying about this, and your esophagus it swallows food and spit, and we have lungs and a heart, and there's bones underneath our skin. And I'm like, Annemarie, like, what is your point? Like, again, it's just like we're really fighting over her esophagus, and she wants to make her point. And again, what is the end game with this situation, right? So they're going back and forth with each other, and then Crystal, they started tag teaming Annemarie. I'm like, Annemarie, get up. Crystal, she's like, well, I mean, you talked about her esophagus for 4 hours with me and Garcelle to the point where we got sick of it and we had to walk away. Then we see in the unseen footage that, yeah, she talked about it for 4 hours. Like, Annemarie, yeah, no. Come over here for a second. Give me your diamond. Like, I know I took it away from you last week. I gave it back, but give it back again. Because that is crazy. Like, the fact that her esophagus has you, talking like this for 4 hours, that is crazy. And for what? Like, who cares? Talk about something else. Talk about her tacky clothing or something, but not her esophagus. But they start going back and forth with each other. And Crystal, this is probably how she talks to her brother's girlfriends, because they started going at it. And Marie's like, well, you're the one that accused her of having an eating disorder. And I'm like what? So not only are you obsessed with her esophagus, now we're just throwing out lies when we all clearly saw in the footage. You're the one that insinuated that she had that, and now it's Crystal, Garcelle. Then Garcelle jumped in, so now they're tag teaming her from every direction. I'm like, Erica Jane, do you want to say anything too? She might as well at this point. Here goes Kyle. Kyle shows up again just to, make the meme expression. She's like, so Crystal is telling her, oh, when I met you, you said you were a doctor. Clearly you're not. You're something else. She's like, oh, you're just jealous of me because you want my career. You want what I have. You wanted to go to nursing school. Then we see in a flashback that we see Crystal. She admitted that, yeah, I wanted to go to nursing school, but then Rob, he wanted to settle down. He wanted to have a wedding and get married, blah, blah, blah. So I did that instead of following my own career. And now Annemarie thinks that she's jealous of her, and that's why she's coming at her. First of all, there's nothing to be jealous of because I'm pretty sure that you have money. Crystal has money. She has Lion King money. She has Mufasa money. She doesn't have to worry about going to nursing school. Fuck nursing school. I married the Lion King. Like, Annemarie is just a mess, right? So Sutton, they're going at it with each other. It's like a three-way at this point. I'm trying to keep it together. At this point, I feel like I'm in the fight. And I'm just watching this like, what did Dr. Simone say on Married to Medicine? Two bitches fighting in ball gowns, like, So then Crystal, she takes it up a notch and she's like, you're such a liar. You're such a fucking liar, Camille. I can't believe you, Annemarie. You're acting like a real bitch. And I'm like, oh, now wait a minute. See, now it's a whole different thing because now, you better watch those B words before you end up in the ocean, Crystal. And I don't care if we're in a fancy, fancy place or whatever. Me and her, we would have been rolling around on the ground the second that you called me a bitch. Everything else was fine, but then the name calling for what? And again, what did I just say earlier about her, maybe having a whole Kathy Hilton different side off camera? There it is right there. Anne-Marie's looking at her like what? Like, that is crazy. So eventually that was that. Crystal was just like, yeah, you're full of it. You're a liar or whatever. Sutton is just like, you need to stop talking about my body, my esophagus, and just let it go. Garcelle, same thing. Erica, she's still worried about her last lawsuits that she needs to pay. So eventually she gives like a backhanded, not compliment, but apology to Sutton by saying, you know what? I apologize to you for you being an idiot and not knowing about your esophagus. But I'm sorry if you weren't acknowledgeable about that. And I'm like, that's not an apology, but okay. We'll accept it for now, right? So after that, we see Kyle and Sutton looking at the things up for auction. Kyle, she spots a ring and she makes a way too soon joke. And she's like, oh, look at this ring. It looks like the ring that my husband gave me after he cheated on me. Good one, Kyle. Good one. Then we see Garcelle. She runs into the one and only Paula Abdul. And I like that she was so nonchalant about it. She was like, oh, hey, Paula. As if she's just a regular woman, right? Story time. So, I actually met Paula Abdul about 3 years ago at a club. You know, I'll put our picture right here. And I was at the club. I was drinking my water, minding my biz. And then I'm listening to the music and I'm like, you know, they played Paula Abdul's music back to back to back. And I'm like, okay, you know, maybe it's just a coincidence or whatever. And then I look over to my left and I see this woman and, you know, she's just breaking down into choreography and, you know, she's really into the music. And I'm like, So I'm looking closer and they're with a group of friends. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that's Paula Abdul. And then I start connecting the dots like, okay, her music is playing. She's right there. That is Paula Abdul herself. And I'm like, wow, she's literally inches away from me. You know, I'm sitting at this table and she's literally right there. So then eventually we managed to lock eyes. Yes, me and Paula Abdul, we lock eyes. So of course I was like, Paula. So she looks over and she waves and I'm like, hi, Paula. I was like, come over here for a second. And she actually came over. She left her friends for a second. She's walking in my direction and I'm like, Paula Abdul, she's walking towards me. What do I do? What do I do? So she comes over and I'm like, hey, Paula, how are you? We hugged and I was just like, I can't believe it. Like, what are you doing here? Such a dumb question because obviously we're in a nightclub. So, I mean, again, what are we doing here? Reading books? So she's like, oh, I'm here celebrating my friend's birthday. You know, we're having a good time. And I'm like, wow, that is crazy. You look so beautiful. You know, I love your music, this, that, and the third. We had a nice conversation. And I was like, can we take a selfie? And she was like, yes, of course. So we took a selfie. That was that. And I was just like, you know, thank you so much for coming over and talking and stuff. I love your music. You look beautiful. I hope you have a great night. And yeah, that was that. Then she walked back to her section with her friends and she was so sweet. She was so nice. So good experience with that. So then we hear someone announce, okay, everybody, give it up for fashion designer Dorit Kemsley. Fashion designer? She probably drew one sweater on a piece of paper and now all of a sudden she's a fashion designer. Okay, she probably paid him extra to say that, but all right, if she wants to play pretend, we could play pretend tonight, right? So she gets on stage in front of a podium that had a sign that said, homeless, not toothless, and the word not is written in bold letters, and just terrible, right? So she gives a long-winded speech and she's like, thank you so much, everybody, for coming out to my Homeless, Not Toothless Foundation. Make sure that you spend a lot of money because this is for a good cause, and I appreciate all of your time tonight. Thank you. We have Paula Abdul and a performance by Taylor Dane. Give it up for Paula. So Paula, she gets on stage, she does a whole, you know, speech, and at this point, give Paula a diamond. Give Annemarie's diamond over to Paula. I want to see about her life and what's been going on with her. So then Taylor Dane comes out and she looks really nice in this pink dress. She starts performing her song. Tell it to my heart. Tell me I'm the only one. Is it really? You know, whatever the lyrics go. But, you know, she performs and everybody's having fun in the crowd. We see all the housewives. They're all dancing and singing with her. Garcelle's having a good time. Sutton's having a good time. Then we see Erica Jane. Erica Jane wanted to be chosen so badly. You would have thought that she thought that Taylor Dane was going to be like, you know what? You in the pink dress. Come up here on stage and sing with me. Sing your song Expensive. I mean, she was lip syncing like it was RuPaul's Drag Race. Speaking of, everybody in the confessional, they're freaking out like, oh, it's Taylor Dane, it's Taylor Dane, it's Taylor Dane. Annemarie, I don't know who Taylor Dane is. And honestly, I can't even clown her because I don't think if it wasn't for RuPaul's Drag Race, you know, because they lip synced to this song at one point, shout out to Detox and Alyssa Edwards, you know, if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't know who she is specifically. I know of the song. This is one of my favorite songs, but I never knew who the person was behind it. So, you know, news to me. But Erica Jane, she was lip syncing. She's like, tell it to my heart. Tell me I'm the only one. Is it really love? And you know what I was expecting? I'm not sure if any of you seen the movie Scary Movie 2 with Anna Faris and the Wayne brothers, but at the very beginning of the movie, there's a scene with Anna Faris. She's driving somewhere and on the radio, one of her favorite songs come on, and Anna Faris, the character name is Cindy. Cindy's like, ah, like she's singing over the song, like loudly, right? So then the radio, it stops, and then the singer who's singing the song tells her, can you shut the fuck up and let me sing? I was waiting for Taylor Dayne to be like, Erica, you in the pink dress, can you stop? Tell it to my heart. So after that, they all sit down at the table, and Sutton wants to clear things up with Annemarie before their trip to Spain. She's like, look, Annemarie, I want to be cool with you, but I don't appreciate you talking about me behind my back or talking about my esophagus. Annemarie was like, look, I'm not talking about your esophagus or you behind your back. I never did that. Even though we see in the footage and in the episode itself that, yeah, you were doing it for 4 hours. So how would you want to explain that? But regardless, the whole event was really, really fun to watch. It was fun to watch them sing along and having, just having a good time with everybody. It was just really, really nice. And I want to see more like ball gown events like this on this show moving forward. Then we see everyone getting ready and packing up for their trip to Spain. Kyle, she's at her house, she's packing up, and Kyle is so annoying because she's looking at these pair of shoes, right? She's like, whose shoes are these? Oh, they're Morgan shoes. Like, Kyle, you're so annoying. Again, painting out this narrative, because now us as the audience, what are we supposed to think watching this? You have your side chick shoes in your house with your husband. Like, that is crazy to me. But, eventually she calls Annemarie. Annemarie, she wants to apologize to Sutton because now that the producers probably told her, look, this esophagus conversation that you continue dragging out for like 15 episodes, yeah, this is going to give you the boot. We're going to have to take your diamond back. So you need to apologize or change the narrative or do something else. Meanwhile, we see Erica Jane, and she calls Crystal and she tells her, so you called Annemarie a bitch last night. And Crystal is just like, yeah, I did, because she was acting like one. And honestly, Crystal and Annemarie, both of you should apologize to each other. Crystal, you for calling her a bitch in the first place, because nobody was name calling until you brung that into the fight. Now, if she would have took it there with you, then this whole thing would have been a whole different issue now. Annemarie, you need to apologize for being delusional. And continuing and wasting the audience's time. You need forget apologizing to Crystal. You need to apologize to the audience for wasting our time and listening to this esophagus conversation for like 500 episodes. So she finally calls Sutton and she's like, Sutton, I just want to apologize for my part in this whole situation. Sutton is sitting there in silence looking at her like, what do you mean your part? I have no part in this whole situation. And I mean, I'm with Sutton, like, Annemarie, like, what exactly do you think that this is? Like, you're the one that started this whole thing. This is like a one-sided issue, and I just don't understand, like I keep saying, what her end game is with all of this. What does Sutton do to you? What does she do besides just have the esophagus in her throat? Because of that, your obsession started. You continue talking about this every other episode, and now you want to take part for what you did, and what did Sutton do to you? Like, it is just crazy delusional, but she tells Sutton, Sutton, I just want to drop this, just let it go. I want to get my diamond back for season 14. If I'm back, who knows? But, let's keep it, let's keep it friendly. Let's be besties for our trip in Spain. So that's that. We're going to have a wonderful time on vacation, right? Oh, so we think, because then we see 24 hours later and we see Annemarie, she's putting Crystal on blast in front of everybody. Oh, when I met you, you told me that this whole group was shallow, that they were all dumb. And I'm like, she's definitely talking about the RHOBH. I'm like, wow. And we see Garcelle questioning Crystal, like, Crystal, is that true? And Crystal is just like, what do you mean? I'm offended that you would even ask me that. So yikes, maybe we spoke too soon about Annemarie. Maybe she's gonna get the first chair at the reunion. Yeah, right. But that was the episode. It was a really, really, really fun episode at the event, and yeah, we shall see how this whole thing plays out in Spain. So let me know what you all thought about this whole episode down in the comments. Bye, everybody. Mwah.